Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and delighted to have in the studio. It's only appropriate that we have Nisha Jackson in the house on the first day of the new year, or at least the first working Monday of the new year, to get your New Year's resolutions in place. And I saw an article, Nisha, the number one thing is health, primarily weight loss.
Yes, of course.
The other thing I saw was kind of interesting, that over 60% of those who make a New Year's resolution will complete it. That's higher than I thought.
Well, you know, it kind of depends on what study you read, because most studies actually say about 47%.
There you go. Okay.
But a lot of it has to do with how you set the New Year's resolution in place. So that's what we're going to attack today. All
right, so we came out of the holidays, we gorged ourselves, we overdid it. I already saw people running the day after Christmas, which was interesting.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's earlier than normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. So.
Well, definitely in the top 5 New Year's resolutions, year after year after year, in the top 5 always is get fit, get healthy, lose weight.
Okay.
So those are always in the top 5. And really, over the whole year, only 8% of the people that make resolutions keep them over the whole year.
Whoa.
But in the first 6 months, typically about 50% of the people keep their New Year's resolutions. In the first 90 days, about 75%. So it kind of depends on how long you get. So part of the strategy really is continuing to set up your resolutions, your plan for getting healthier and getting better and improving yourself, and reminding yourself throughout the year, setting up the plan now so that that stays in place throughout the whole year. So you don't kind of just, you know, let it kind of wane out after the first 3 months.
So why does it fizzle? Why? I mean, it's serious stuff.
Right.
We know that we need to do it.
Right.
We know we feel better when we do. We know it's a healthy thing to do.
Yes.
But why do we fizzle?
Well, I think a lot of it is that it's the planning. Now, I want to back up and say that only 46% of people overall even make New Year's resolutions. So over half of the people in the U.S. had never make New Year's resolutions. And a lot of people say, oh, I don't make New Year's resolutions because nobody keeps them anyway, so why even do it? But one of the points I wanted to drive home today is that if you're not getting better or making an attempt to get better in all aspects of your life, you're going to get worse, right? Because nothing stays the same. So it is really important to make New Year's resolutions, and it doesn't have to be a New Year's resolution. It could just be a resolution to get healthier, get more fit, be more optimistic, whatever it might be less of a complainer. Whatever it might be, but getting better. And so only half of the people actually make New Year's resolutions. So I do think it's important to make a New Year's resolution or a resolution to get better.
Do we take on too much too fast? Is that why we get discouraged?
I think we do, and I think the reason why not everybody makes New Year's resolution, and that number is actually going down, how many people actually make New Year's resolutions actually is going down. I think it's because, I actually think it's because we're too busy. Because to make a New Year's resolution, you have to put some thought into it. You have to be somewhat passionate about it. You have to make a plan. You've got to be somewhat accountable. It means that you're going to put yourself on the line a little bit. And I think people are just too busy to do it. If more than half of the people aren't doing it, then there's something wrong, right?
Well, I found out, and of course you helped me with this through the years, is that I go to the gym and I watch these guys think they're at a muscle farm, you know?
Yes.
And I thought, what? You're just doing too much.
Right.
I mean, I don't want to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I just want to feel good.
They call that a violation of twos. Too much, too fast.
Yeah.
Right? They get in there and they just overdo it.
It's almost entertainment to watch them.
Especially the first 2 weeks. Actually, the percentage of New Year's resolutions that drop off even after the first 2 weeks is pretty significant. So, yes, too much too soon, like you said, is definitely a problem for people because they're just trying to attain too much too soon. So if you have 50 pounds to lose, you should set a goal to lose 10 pounds. And a lot of people can't even, you know, Americans are so good at like, you know, it's all or nothing. And so setting a goal of 10 pounds and making a reward after 10 pounds and then tackling the next 10 pounds is so much better than saying I need to lose 50 pounds. Because when you only see the scale moving 1 pound a week or 2 pounds a week, it's really discouraging. But over a year, you would lose 52 pounds, right? So it's important that you set goals that are easier to obtain and that you actually start writing them down, because the planning of the goals is the key.
Okay. What should be the goal? Losing the weight or feeling better?
Well, both. I think it can be, I always think losing weight is important because the bottom line is Americans are overweight. The vast majority of Americans are overweight. So we're eating too much food, even if we're eating the right food. Like I see a lot of people eat the Mediterranean diet, which is an excellent diet, one that I really promote in my practice, is eating a little bit more protein, good carbohydrates, cutting out the white flour and the sugars, and eating whole grains, more beans, lentils, and so that's kind of the diet that I promote, but I see people overeating even on that diet. And even if you're eating good food and you're overeating, you're still going to gain weight. So I think losing weight is a good goal. Now, there's a lot of different ways that you can identify how you should lose weight, how much weight you should lose. You could have a body fat test done to identify how many pounds of muscle you have versus how many pounds of fat you have, and really hone in on what's important for you to lose, because obviously we want to lose the fat. And then how you lose the weight is also very important. But I think the most important thing is you should lose weight to get down to the size that you feel comfortable. So I think it's really a combination of both, feeling better and losing weight, if you have weight to lose.
Okay, yeah, that's the other one.
If you have weight to lose. Not everybody has weight to lose. Some people just are at an ideal body weight, but they're not at an ideal percentage of body fat. So some people have 50% body fat and weigh 120 pounds. That's not healthy. Fat is not healthy.
Okay.
So that might be the other problem for some people.
All right, well, I want to have you just kind of help us lay out a plan, because I think a lot of people have good intentions, but we just need to get healthier. All you have to do is go to an international airport terminal, and you can pick the Americans out.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
My daughter just spent a whole semester in Berlin.
Yeah.
And we met in just right before Christmas. She came home and she said, Mom, it's so strange for me to see people that are overweight. She goes, I don't know in 4.5 months if I even saw one person that was overweight.
Right.
So it's true. Americans do have a problem in this area, and it's not getting better, and it's really moving into the children.
The other thing we need to take away is there's a lot of gimmick formulas and pills and plans and things. I have found that, guess what? It's work.
Yes.
But if you plan it, it's very successful.
Right, and sticking with it, I think that's the key. So we have to identify, there's so many books out there on change and how you can appropriately change, but we have to identify what works for us. Most people, like for me, I used to be so accountable on my own. I've talked about this before on the show. I would get up every day, 4:30, 5 o'clock, do my hour of exercise, no problem on my own. I'm not accountable to myself anymore. I have to have somebody show up and be texting me or calling me if I'm not there. So the accountability is really big, and that gets more predominant, I think, for most people as they get older. So finding a partner that's not a wishy-washy partner, somebody who's really into fitness or really into making you accountable, and wanting to have the same type of goals. So finding a partner, I think, is key, or even hiring a personal trainer that you meet with once a month or once a week or a couple times a week, depends on what you want to do. Somebody in your family that maybe you can be accountable with. I think somebody outside the family sometimes is a little bit more successful, because I think family members sometimes get together and say, oh, let's just forget it tonight, you know? So I think finding an outside person to be accountable and getting the support that you need is probably on the top of the list. And making attainable goals. Like I said, if you have 50 pounds to lose, attacking the first 10 and then deciding, okay, where do I want to go from here? Most people think they need to lose more weight than they do. Really? Most people that want to lose 50 pounds really only need to lose 30 to 35 pounds. Because if you lose it the right way and you lose fat, fat takes up twice the space as muscle. So your size changes faster if you're losing body fat, which is the key. And the way you want to lose body fat is you want to cut out the foods that are raising your blood sugar and raising your insulin, which is a fat storage hormone. And you want to be doing some type of cardio exercise, like getting your heart rate up. And that can be anything that you want to do to get your heart rate up for a minimum of 20 minutes, 6 days a week. I think it's better to do it every day of the week, but just because I think the consistency is important, but many people take 1 to 2 days off per week. If you're only exercising 3 days a week, you are not going to change your percentage of body fat, most likely, unless you've gone from doing absolutely nothing to doing 3 days a week, but that will only last for a while. So I recommend doing it more often. You'll stick with it longer if you're doing it more often. And then also the weight resistance training. We, as Americans, lose 3% of our body fat, 3% of our muscle mass after the age of 50 every year.
Whoa.
So what happens is that we don't replace the muscle with muscle, we replace the muscle with fat. So we actually become larger eating the same amount of food. So the only way we can get the muscle back on is not walking, and it's not cycling, it's actually doing some type of weight resistance exercise. Like sit-ups, push-ups, pull-ups, lunges, something at home, or some type of weight exercises.
So what I'm hearing you say here is that before we head out, before you run out and buy that gym membership and do all that all has its place, but have you put together a plan? Have you really sat down and say, wait a minute, what is it I want to accomplish here? Do I want to lose weight? Do I want to feel better? You may want to have your blood sugar checked. You may want to have all your hormones and thyroids checked. I mean, right?
Right. Those all influence your ability to lose weight. And so if you feel like you've done a lot of those things in 2014, you've really worked at cutting out your foods that raise insulin and make you fatter, including the high carbohydrates, the high sugar, the high flour. If you've done all of those things and you've been exercising and you're not losing weight, there might be something else going on. So you're right. You should have those things checked. But also spelling out the details, and that's one thing I want to talk about today, is spelling out the details.
We're going to have you do that. Let me take a quick break. Ventana Wellness, and check it out, ventanawellness.com. That's the website. It's a terrific resource. It's a clinic right here in Southern Oregon, and incredible staff there to help you with this. And she's going to give you the ABCs when we come back. Maybe even the CDEF.
Hi, I'm Paulina, and I work at theDove TV. Did you know that when you support theDove TV, you have a profound impact, not only in our community, but around the world? It's your continued support that takes the inspiration and hope in the programs we produce and makes them available to the thousands of people who are watching these videos online every week. Help bring encouragement and hope to our valley and beyond by making a secure online donation today at our website, thedove.us.
If you're just waking up, it's 2015, so if you didn't meet your New Year's resolution in 2014, don't worry about it. You got another year to give it a shot.
That's right. Exactly. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. On the last day of the year, I was telling people you have 12 hours to lose 20 pounds if you're going to meet your 2014 resolution. But there's another way to handle this. Nisha's here from Ventana Wellness, ventanawellness.com, great resource and a great clinic. All right, so walk us through the ABCs. We know we want to do something, but let's start this thing right. What should we do?
Yes. Okay. First thing is to make attainable goals. So we talked about, don't go for the huge goal. You might want to say, I want to lose 50 pounds, but the plan should be, I want to focus on my first 10, or I want to lose 30 or 20 or whatever. I want to focus on my first 5 or 10. And how am I going to do that? What's my plan? What's my diet? What am I going to be on? There's lots of diets out there that people can be on. But make it something simple that you know that you and your family can do. And then the second thing is to make the goal include not only the dietary changes, but also the exercise changes, and have them written down. Now, most people just say, oh, I'm just going to try to eat less sugar and less flour or whatever, but they don't really have a plan written down. So writing it down is the key. Most people, they say half of the people who make New Year's resolutions actually don't even write them down. So that reduces the effectiveness of the goal significantly. So writing them down and having a plan is the most important. The other thing is managing your cravings, because the number one reason why people slip up and don't stay on a plan is they've not managed their cravings. Now, there's 3 things that can cause cravings to get the best of you. One of them is low blood sugar. So if you've gone more than 4 to 5 hours without eating and your blood sugar's dropped, I promise you, your brain will not scream broccoli, it's going to scream chocolate or sugar or something sweet. So, and it usually is about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So managing those cravings, what is my plan when I get to that point, and what are my triggers? Do I get so stressed out by 3 o'clock in the afternoon that I end up having a latte and a cookie every single day? Is that what I go for? Or do I have a snack, a sugary snack every night after dinner because I've waited all day to eat and then I can't eat enough at dinner time, like I can't quite catch up with my blood sugar? What are my triggers? And then managing those cravings. The other reason why people have cravings is that their fluid intake is too little. So not drinking enough water during the day actually can set the sugar cravings and the salt cravings up. So if you find yourself going for those potato chips instead of the sugar, it might be that you're dehydrated. And then, of course, the third thing is stress. Stress causes your body to make more adrenaline, and more adrenaline and cortisol causes your blood sugar to plummet. When your blood sugar plummets, again, you want more sugar. So managing those cravings, I think, is really, really important. We've talked about this before, and that's controlling your environment. If you have food in your house that you cannot have on the plan that you're on, then you shouldn't have it in your house, and nobody in your house needs it. So, and that includes your children who don't have a weight problem. If they don't have a weight problem, they still don't need the food. It's not good for them. It reduces their immune system. They'll get sick more often. Eventually, they will be fat if they're eating these kinds of foods. So get them out of your house and replace them. So I always say, if you have a bad habit that you're doing, make sure you always replace it with a good habit. Don't just get rid of the food and not replace it with good food. Put the foods in your pantry and in your cupboards that are good foods.
Does that include the butter caramel almond cookies from Trader Joe's?
Yes, absolutely. Ooh, that sounds good. My mouth is watering.
You can't eat one.
But I think it is important to reward yourself, because we're kind of a reward society.
Okay.
We really are. So I think rewarding yourself is important. When I lose my first 5 pounds, or when I lose my first 10 pounds, we should say to ourselves, what am I going to give myself?
Yeah.
What is the reward? And then the other thing I want to just mention too, and this is something I constantly try to get into my head, is that this is just the way it is. I realized this when I was sitting with my 94-year-old grandmother and my mother and my daughter, so 4 generations sitting at a table, and my grandmother says, I have got to get this 5 pounds off. I've got to get my eating under control, and I've got to get this 5 pounds off. I mean, she's very health conscious.
Yeah.
And my younger daughter said, are you kidding me? You're 94 and you're still worrying about the 5 pounds you need to get off, or you need to get back on your healthy eating. So it's just a reminder that this is just the way it is. Because if we're not conscious about what we're doing, we are getting worse, right? So it should be part of our lifestyle that we're very conscious about our diet. We're very conscious about the way we exercise and the way we keep our body fit. Because if we're not, we're getting worse. So that should last your whole life. Because there are many people, Perry, I know you've heard them say, oh, I don't believe in diets.
Yeah.
I don't want to be on any kind of plan. You know, nobody sticks with it.
Right.
They never work. It's not true, because if you're not doing that, you're probably not going to continue to improve yourself, which we need to do.
Well, I can tell you, there's an old saying, in fact, Patrick Doyle will tell you this, the only 2 things that will make you change is inspiration or desperation.
Yes, exactly.
So I would encourage you to get inspired before you become desperate.
Yes.
You know, so if you're inspired to do it, you're going to stick with it. If you're desperate, you're going to panic.
Right. And just know, I learned this many years ago when I started my practice in 1995. Dr. Barry Sears, who is still so well known for all of his work in the area of insulin and blood sugar, and he's come out with new books. I love his information on weight loss and also blood sugar balance and insulin control. He said, you're only as good as your last meal, which is so true. So if you completely blew it at lunch, let's say you went out to lunch with a friend, you just started your diet, your good eating plan and your exercise plan, and you're on track, and you went out to lunch and you decided to have chocolate dessert after lunch, and you're so mad at yourself. You're only as good as your last meal. It doesn't mean you have to wait till the next Monday to start again.
Yeah.
You just go right to your next meal and you clean it up. So dealing with setbacks is really important, because again, we're an all or nothing society, and we want to just throw in the towel the first time we have sugar, or the first time we have a dessert, or something that we shouldn't have.
All right, so write your plan down. Plan your work your plan. That's the old saying in business.
Get support.
Okay, get support. Fluid.
Yes.
Water, I guess.
So if you're hungry at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and you've had a good lunch and you know it's not time for your afternoon snack yet, let's just say this is hypothetically this is the issue.
Just want you to know it's water.
Hey, I have tea today.
I got water.
Is drink a full glass of water. Most of the time, if you drink a full glass of water, and this is an important thing to do even before meals, is to drink a full glass of water. Chances are you'll eat less at the next meal, and chances are in the afternoon, if you know your blood sugar shouldn't be plummeting, a full glass of water will actually curb the problem of having cravings or even feeling tired and headachy. So I think adding a full glass of water, 8 glasses of water a day is really important. People do not drink enough water in the winter. They just don't. They don't want it. It's cold. But again, you can have tea. There's some wonderful teas out there. I love licorice root tea, green tea. Licorice root tea is very good for stress, by the way. Most people don't know that. It doesn't taste like licorice, but it's very good for the adrenal glands.
Okay.
So 8 glasses of water a day is very important, however you get that.
All right, stress. Probably the number one reason. Well, I would say stress and sugar is probably what puts the pounds on.
Yes. Stress and sugar, and also I think not having a plan, as we've talked before, and not having somebody to be accountable to. Now, if you really want to go to the highest level of accountability, your friend or your partner, whoever you've decided, the person that's going to be checking on you, should be watching you weigh yourself. Now, that is the highest level of accountability, highest level of humiliation.
How about honesty?
Is to have somebody weigh you, and or be checking in with you. And I would set that up. I would say the first Tuesday of every week, or the second and fourth Tuesday. I would never make it a Monday. Mondays are not a good day to weigh in. Period. Or Wednesday. You could say Tuesday or Wednesday. I'm gonna have somebody weigh me on this day. And there are many people out there, Perry, that don't believe in weighing in. But the problem is we're too heavy. And so we should be weighing. We should have some measurement of what we're trying to achieve. And then sticking with it, saying, okay, in the month of January, this is my goal. February, all the way through the end of the year. By the end of the year, we should get to the point where we say, okay, this is what we've done this year. We shouldn't, most people at the end of the year, they can't even remember what their New Year's resolution was last year, except for they can kind of guess it was probably weight loss and more exercise. But writing it down and keeping with it every single month is very, very important.
Wow. Is there a time to do this better than another? I mean, I see, the gym will load up before work and load up after work. When's a good time to work out?
If you have trouble sleeping, you probably shouldn't be exercising at night. Because what exercise does is it kind of gets your body prepared to be on alert, awake, and energized for the day. So really the best time to exercise is first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. You'll burn 200% more calories if you exercise first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. Now, not everybody can do it on an empty stomach. Some people have to have a little bit of snack just to kind of maintain their blood sugar. But most people have so many carbohydrates stored in their liver from eating that they can make it through a workout on an empty stomach. You will burn more fat if you exercise on an empty stomach. Weight resistance training actually works a little bit better if you have some carbohydrate on board. You'll actually be able to build muscle better with some carbohydrate and protein. But exercising in the evening, I'm careful about saying all this because if it's the only time you can exercise, it's still very, very important. And if you don't have any trouble sleeping, some people actually sleep better when they exercise in the evening. But do it when you can do it and when it fits into your schedule and that when you can stick with it. I just find over the years of working with men and women on their weight that once the day gets started, there's so many distractions and there's so many excuses that it's hard to say, after work, I'm going to put my tennis shoes on and go to the gym. Okay. So many people just don't follow through.
Now, you have a nutritionist on staff at Ventana.
Yes.
So they can help people line this out. Should they see you before they start? I mean, should you have their blood tests or should they be checked out before they get on some kind of a rigorous program?
I think so. No matter what your diagnosis is, a good eating plan and a good exercise plan is going to help you. But if you feel that there is some obstacle to losing weight and becoming fit and building muscle, it could be that the testosterone's too low, the estrogen's too high, the thyroid's too low. There's other hormone levels that can interfere with your body's ability to be more metabolically active. But I think having a plan and getting tested is important, but everybody would benefit from changing their diet and exercising across the board.
There you go. No excuses. You've heard it here. And I would suggest you download this program again this afternoon. It'll be on the Dove website and watch it again and again and again.
And don't forget, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse.
Yeah, that's as simple as that, isn't it?
Yes. Every day you should be conscious about what you're doing.
Okay, and look, I think I want to take the guilt out of doing this. It actually can be fun and very challenging and very rewarding if you sit down and plan it out and do it in increments.
Yes.
And that's where
every month.
That's where Nisha and her team come in. VentanaWellness.com, or just give them a call at the clinic and make an appointment and get in and get started. Thanks.
You're welcome.
And
Happy New Year.
So Happy New Year. And your New Year's resolution is?
Oh, my resolutions are always the same. Try to work a little bit less, enjoy life more, and keep doing the right things.
2 out of 3 is not bad. All right, we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paula, and I work at theDove TV. Every day we get letters and emails from people who've been encouraged, blessed, and challenged by the programs on the Dove TV. But we couldn't do it without you. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to bring inspiration and hope to our community by making a secure online donation at our website, theDove.us, or call us at 541-776-5368.
Welcome back. I am delighted to have with us today. In fact, it's been too long since we've had him on the air, but always a delight when we do, and that's Dan Wooding. He heads up Assist News, and it's a news service. I tell you what, his passion is to get the word out about the persecuted church, the underground church, and assistnews.net is a website, and when you go there, not only is it a tremendous resource, and they've redone the website, but to sign up for his emails, you're going to get emails constantly throughout the day and throughout the week, giving you reports of the persecuted church and great news stories from around the world. But Dan himself is an interesting guy, and today we're Skyping him in. And hey, brother, good to see you. How are you?
And you, my friend. Yes, I'm so excited. I've taken a pill. I may have to take another one, though. I always get excited talking to you, my friend.
Good to see you. Yeah, good to see you. I look forward. Are you going to be at the NRB?
I am, yes, yeah. Are you going to win the award again this time?
We just found out that we were, and we are winning a television station of the year again for 2015.
Oh, congratulations. That's wonderful. Well, maybe I should turn the tables on you there and we do a radio show together.
We've got to do something, but I look forward to our annual meal where I sit down and you talk.
That's great.
Well, a lot going on. Hey, listen, through the years, you've worked with a lot of people, but you have had the great honor of working with Billy Graham. Tell us about some of your stories there.
Yeah, well, to start with, I'd always wanted to be a journalist, Perry, and for many years, I sort of messed around with a bit of writing and that, and eventually Billy Graham moved over to London for a little while and bought a newspaper called The Christian, and it was the oldest evangelical paper in the world at the time, and he modernized it and then started hiring staff, and I bombarded the paper with requests to come and join the staff, and whether they made a mistake or not, I don't know, but they called me and made me the chief reporter. In fact, I was the only reporter, but it looked really good on my business card. and so my wife, Norma, and myself, and our two boys, Andrew and Peter, we moved to London, and I went to the office, and on the very first day at the office, the editor calls me in. His name was J.D. Douglas, who edited the New Bible Dictionary. And he had a speech impediment. You know, he was Scottish. And, of course, all Scottish people have speech impediments, but he had a particularly bad one. And so he had to type it out. You know, he had a typewriter, if anyone can remember the typewriter. And it just said, Dan, please go to St. Paul's Cathedral immediately to interview Coretta Scott King. She was going to be speaking there at a memorial service for a late husband who'd been murdered, and he told me where to meet her, and I turned up. Never done a interview full-time with a newspaper, and turn up there, and I'm ushered into a room, and there's the lady with her kids running around, and I had an amazing first interview with this lady, and I asked her, was she afraid that she might be killed like her husband? And because she said no, she said, I believe God's called me to follow in his footsteps. And she looked around at the kids and she said, they're with me also. So that was an interesting start. And eventually, after a year, sadly, the paper got shut down. It wasn't doing too well financially. And I moved into the rather wicked world of secular journalism. And then to jump forward, I backslid very badly and eventually came back to the Lord and began working with a man called Brother Andrew, God's Smuggler, as his writer, and did quite a bit of stuff with him. And then we moved to the U.S. to be the media director for Andrew's ministry here, Open Doors USA. And for several years I did that. And then I left, and the day I left, I was given a bit of a downer by someone on the staff who said, "Dan, we're glad you're going because you can't write anyway." And, you know, like some people, we accept negative stuff, don't we? You know, so for a couple of years, I started Assist, but I did no journalism. And then out of the blue, Billy Graham's press officer, Larry Ross, phoned me, said that Mr. Graham was going to do a crusade in Moscow. This was about 1992, and it was the first time he was ever allowed to openly preach the gospel and have an altar call. And he said, "We'd like you to come over and help with the writing, and we need someone to tabloidize his media." Because, you know, the media was all fill in the blanks and news releases at the time. And so I said to my wife, you know, I don't know what to do. I've been told I can't write, and yet Billy Graham wants me to come over and help. And she said, "Well, it's a good job Billy doesn't realize you can't write." And within days, I'm in Moscow. I'm every day for 3 weeks meeting with Mr. Graham, writing the different stories. And it was one of the most exciting moments of my life, as you could imagine. Besides talking with you, Perry, it was absolutely amazing. And eventually, he invited me to work with him in Germany and Puerto Rico. I wrote the cover story for the Saturday Evening Post about him. I helped to relaunch for Plain Truth magazine with an interview with him, and the article was called Just As I Am. And, you know, that was a cult magazine at one time, and then the Plain Truth people had become evangelical. And so I've had a wonderful time with Mr. Graham, and, you know, he's just an amazing man. And, of course, we've just tied in with the Louis Zamborini situation. I went and interviewed Louis a couple of years ago in his Hollywood Hills home, and of course the movie and the book Unbroken have been big hits, and it was through Billy that Louis Zamborini found the Lord in 1949 at his LA crusade, and he became very close with Mr. Graham, and I could imagine having a meeting with Billy Graham and Louis Zamborini. That would be so interesting.
Whoa, I would imagine. Well, listen, Billy Graham, of course, he's in the twilight part of his life now, and but the impact is still there. His ministry continues to impact people around the world. Now, you report on ministries all over the world. Have you ever seen anything as impacting as the Billy Graham Crusades?
No, they're quite amazing because, you know, Franklin basically has taken over, but also Franklin's son, Will, who was actually apparently in the Rose Parade here, where he was honoring Louis Zamborini, or the late Louis Zamborini. They have used modern technology. They've always used a lot of modern technology, but they use the internet. They have a site called peacewithgod.net. They have My Hope, you know, the videos that they run, and millions are coming to the Lord. They just released a little documentary on Louis Zamborini to show the Christian side of his story as opposed to the Angelina Jolie version of it. So I am just thrilled that even though Mr. Graham now is not in very good health, and even though he's in the twilight of his own, his ministry continues, and is seeing in some ways maybe millions coming to the Lord, and it's as effective today as it ever was when he was out on the road.
Wow. Before I take a break, let's talk about your book, Mary, real quick, and the story from Bethlehem to Calvary. It's obvious, but why did you take this on?
Well, I got a phone call from a friend. You know, I've written 45 books now, and I've written very little fiction. And I had a friend call me one day, and he said, "Dan, I've never seen a book about the life of Jesus through the eyes of Mary. Why don't you become Mary and write her story?" So I did. I used to be a ghostwriter in London for various celebrities, and so for 3 months, Perry, I would read the scriptures. I've based the book on 365 scriptures from the Bible, and I would imagine what it was like to be the mother of Jesus and tell the amazing story, as you mentioned, from Bethlehem to Calvary. It was a very moving experience, and we've got a website if people are interested, which is marythebook.com. No www, marythebook.com. You can see the cover there, which is beautiful. Read some of the one of the sample chapters and see some of the endorsements.
All right, marythebook.com. Let me encourage you to check it out. Go to marythebook.com. Let me take a break here, Dan. When you come back, I want you to talk about Assist News and some of the stories. It's remarkable. I don't know. You must have reporters all over the world, but I think I get what, 4 or 5, maybe 6 emails a day from you.
Yeah.
Good ones, too, I might add. Let me take a quick break. We'll be back with Dan Wooding in just a moment.
Hi, I'm Daniel, and I work at theDove TV. You know, compared to Portland, Seattle, and LA, Medford might be considered a small market, but at theDove, we're excited about the opportunity to make a big impact right here in our community. And you help make that happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us now by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or by phoning 541-776-5368.
Okay, we're back and delighted to have back with us today Dan Wooding. He is heads up Assist News, the Assist News service, and you can go to assistnews.net. Incredible resource. Pastors, let me encourage you to check out this website and to sign up for his emails. He will give you stories from around the world, several each day through his correspondent network. It's amazing. And Dan, you've redone your website, and I don't know, how many correspondent connections do you have around the world?
Well, we have about 20. Not all of them are regulars, but many of them live in restricted countries like Pakistan. Egypt, to an extent, is restricted. We have people, I've even worked with people in Gaza and, of course, Israel, Bethlehem. And I was recently actually in Indonesia, and we've just run a story that I thought maybe your viewers and listeners would be interested in. It was about a church in Indonesia that lost 41 members in the Air Asia tragedy. It was a church called the Marwan Sharon Church. They lost 41 members in the crash, and they've just had a service gathered in a large room at the Surabaya airport, where the pastor Philip Montofa, he urged the group to trust in God and hold tightly to their faith, despite the senselessness of the accident and the agony that they're enduring. He said, some things do not make sense to us, but God is bigger than this. Our God is not evil. Help us, God, to move forward, even though we are surrounded by darkness. So you could imagine, that's a story you're not going to read in the secular media, but one church losing 41 members in the tragedy.
Wow. What went on in Laos for Christmas? I guess no Christmas.
No, well, you know, the situation in Laos is very, very bad. It's still a communist country, and they've basically banned Christmas, particularly for the Hmong people. The Hmong are an ethnic group there that the government hates. You know, during the Vietnam War, the Hmong fought with the American troops, and the Laotians and the Vietnamese have never forgiven them for that. But they have many, many Christians, and they've been told they couldn't celebrate Christmas, and so they've had to do it in secret. It's a very, very bad situation for the people there, and almost daily we're running stories on restricted countries. And one of the worst in the world at the moment is Nigeria, where I was born. My mum and dad were missionaries from Liverpool, England, went over there in the 30s, got married, fell in love. I came along and ruined everything for them. We moved to England in 42. But there's a group there called the Boko Haram, a terrible group that are almost as bad as ISIL or ISIS in Syria and in northern Iraq. And they are trying to take over Nigeria, particularly northern Nigeria, where I was born, and turn it into a caliphate or an Islamic state.
Right.
And so they are killing every week hundreds and hundreds of people, many of them Christians, a lot of them also school kids. They go in, they pick on the weakest of the weak and go in and kill them. And of course, we've got ISIL basically telling the Christians of northern Iraq that you either convert to Islam or we will kill you, or you get out as soon as you can. And so places like Mosul have been taken over by these awful people. And so we put these stories out, Perry, not to glorify the violence, but to get Christians to get involved and to start praying for these believers, because, many of them feel totally forgotten by us in the West. And so we feel that you need to know before you can pray. And so we provide this free service. And by the way, we're just about today to switch over to a more updated news site, which I think people will find exciting. But it'll be the same address as sysnews.net. And we offer a free subscription. You don't have to pay for it. Nobody will come round and demand that you give them a check or something. It's completely free. And it's a ministry that we want to use to bless the persecuted church.
Well, let me just say, it's called assistnews.net is the website. Let me encourage you to go there, sign up for it. It'll give you much to pray about. And it is a faith-based organization, so if you feel led to support Dan and his work, please do that. And let me encourage you to support them. Dan, let me just skip ahead a little bit. Tell us about Sir Henry Frederick Ross Catherwood.
Well, anyone who's geriatric like me will remember his father-in-law. His name was Dr. Martin Lloyd-Jones. And Dr. Jones was a surgeon who became a believer, and then he started or got involved with Westminster Chapel in London. Westminster Chapel was a very, very famous church right round the corner from Buckingham Palace. And Dr. Sir Frederick Catherwood, you've given him his full name, but he was known mainly as Sir Fred Catherwood. Before he was knighted, he married Elizabeth, who was one of the daughters of Dr. Martin Lloyd-Jones, and eventually went on to join the European Parliament, became the head of the European Parliament, was knighted by the Queen, but he was an on-fire Christian. And he eventually gave up his seat in the European Parliament to be the president and the chairman of the Evangelical Alliance of Great Britain, and also he helped to start a ministry to students in different colleges. And he was a very interesting guy. I knew his son, Christopher, very well. Christopher's just written a book about Winston Churchill, of all things. But Sir Fred, in his later years, sadly got Alzheimer's, and he died a couple of weeks ago now in England. But he had quite a legacy behind him. And I once met Dr. Jones. I lived in Ealing in West London and went and met this rather interesting guy. He'd resigned by then and was retired and just really enjoying his life. But, we try and bring all sorts of different types of stories to people to bless them, to encourage them, but mainly so they'll pray about them.
Dan, we're not only seeing an increase of evangelism around the world, and it seems that we are reaching more, the technology is there, the gospel is going out, but we're also seeing an increase in persecution. Can you comment on that?
Yes, I used to work for many years with Brother Andrew, God's smuggler, and suddenly he switched the vision of the ministry from the communist world to the Islamic world. And he said God had showed him that that's where the persecution was coming from. And he was absolutely right. And, when communism collapsed in the Soviet Union and in most of Eastern Europe, and, it seemed like, well, we can breathe again. But now the rise of fundamentalist Islam has been even more worse in many ways than communism. We've still got North Korea, which is a nutty place, and I've been there. But the situation is getting worse and worse because of the fanaticism of ISIL and Boko Haram, and there are other different groups, Al Qaeda as well. We thought once we'd killed Osama bin Laden, it would all quieten down. It certainly hasn't, but it's just groups even worse than Al Qaeda seem to be coming along, and they're all trying to outdo each other with their violence against believers.
Can you comment on the current relationship between the United States and Israel?
Well, it's a strange situation. It seems as if Obama's a little scared to speak up on behalf of Israel at the moment, and Kerry seems to be trying to sort out the mess between Gaza and the Palestinian Authority. I think we should be 100% behind Israel, but we should also be 100% behind the Palestinian believers that are sort of caught in the crossfire, Perry. They're hated by Israel in many ways because they assume all the Palestinians are terrorists, and they're hated by their Muslims, and they're getting driven out. So certainly we should support Israel, but also the Palestinian believers, not the Palestinian state or the Hamas people, but the believers there.
And is that growing?
Oh, it's getting terrible. I mean, the situation, so many have now left the West Bank. I was in Bethlehem a few years ago with my wife, and we'd gone there to visit the Bethlehem Bible College, and we got caught up with 5 Islamic State gunmen that were going to murder us because they thought we were settlers coming in to have a fight with them. And this is my wife's first ever trip to the Middle East, and it looks like we're going to be shot there in the street by the church, Manger Square there, and the church. And amazingly, God intervened. They didn't kill us, but it was a real frightening experience of what it's like to be a believer there, even in Bethlehem.
Wow. Well, Dan, with the few moments we have left, what would be your message to the American church for 2015, given all that you cover through Assist News?
Well, I would like to just say that you're part of the largest family in the world, and the family isn't all American, it isn't all white, it speaks many, many different languages, you can't be a racist if you're a Christian, because they're from every tribe and every nation. When we get to heaven, we're going to be surprised the races, making the racial mixture there. But I think it's time for us to realize that much of the church around the world needs our help, needs our prayers, needs our support. And so I would say expand your vision from your little church that you go to, which is great, but expand your vision to the worldwide church and become, instead of just an American Christian, become a world Christian.
Wow, well said. All right, Assist News, you're launching a new site today.
Yes, we hope so. but if they just go there now, they'll see the old site with a lot of great stories there.
All right, and they can sign up for the e-blast, and you have what, I don't know, how many you do a day?
Yeah, we do 5, 6, 7 sometimes. There's a place on both of the websites where they can sign up.
Okay. And again, your book, Mary, you can go marythebook.com, is that right?
Yeah, just go there and you can actually buy the book there, but you can read some of the endorsements. We even got Roma Downey to endorse it, who, as you know, played Mary in Son of God and was in Touched by an Angel for years. Pat Boone and a various group of people have got behind it. And, in some ways, it's rather bizarre that a former tabloid journalist would become Mary, the mother of Jesus.
I need to read it just to see where your head is at. Well, Dan, always a blessing and an inspiration to have you, my friend. Look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks at the NRB, and I'll pay you pray. How's that?
That's great. Good. Thank you, Perry. God bless everyone out there.
All right, God bless you. Say hi to Norma for us.
I will. Thank you.
Okay. We'll see you next time on Focus Today.
Hi, I'm Jim and I work at theDove TV. Every weekday between 6 and 8 a.m., our award-winning news and sports team bring you the best morning show around. It's live, it's honest, and it's a whole lot of fun. And you help make it happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to air local programs that share your voice by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us.